I believe we need to strengthen protection of wild animals in captivity and to prevent the reproduction of exotic animals, including lions and tigers. Jailing animals, if you will, for the pleasure of human beings is less and less acceptable. And in the heart of Quebec, there was an event in May of 2018 which showed that we need to act there. In the Mauricie, there were 200 exotic animals, including tigers, lions, kangaroos, and bears, which had not received veterinary care, and they were saved from unsanitary facilities. And a visitor to the zoo had reported the abuse, which triggered the action. The scandal raised many questions about the proper practices in zoos, as the St. Edward Zoo had been condemned several times, but it always received another permit. How can we prevent such abuses from happening in future? Some people would like to shut down all zoos and aquariums, but that's not what Senator Klein's bill is about. Instead, it proposes a thorough and complex reform of prohibited species and required permits. The legislation would impose much stricter national rules for the possession of certain species of felines, primates, and canines. The bill would allow zoos and aquariums to keep the wild animals they already own, but it tightens conditions for the future.
Zoos from keeping more than 800 species of wild animals, including big cats, bears, wolves, seals, sea lions, certain reptiles like crocodile, and venomous snakes. These animals were selected because some are more dangerous, they need more space, or a different climate than ours. If they want to override this ban, the 100 or so wildlife attractions in Canada will have to apply for licenses from the federal or provincial government with strict conditions related to scientific research and the interest of the animal. Institutions will also be able to obtain designation as an eligible animal care organization, provided they meet a series of conditions, including animal care recognized as the highest standards, best practices, and the establishment of a mechanism protecting whistleblowers employed in zoos. Some believe that obtaining permits will be complicated. The owner of Parc Safari in Hemingford, Quebec, also believes that the S-241 project is a first step towards the end of zoological institution due to restriction on the import and exports of animals. Personally, I have nothing against raising standards and additional restrictions aimed at better protecting animals, but I'm concerned about the differential treatment given to Canadian zoos and aquariums in this bill. On the one hand, almost all zoos and aquariums will have to try to obtain permission from the federal administration once the law is enforced. However, the law grants exemptions to 7 zoos and aquariums in Canada because they are members of a private American organization, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums. These 7 organizations are le Zoo de Granby, the Calgary Zoo, the Montreal Biodome, the Toronto Zoo, the Ripley Aquarium of Canada, the Assiniboine Park Zoo in Winnipeg, and the Vancouver Aquarium. These are generally larger institutions with more resources. Obtaining an ASA accreditation costs around $12,000, but above all, it takes dedicated staff and months, if not years, of preparation. According to Senator Marty Klein and the groups he consulted, the treatment given to the 7 establishments is justified because of the ASA, EDZE, applies very high criteria before granting its stamps of approval. The ASEA is based in Maryland and accredits mainly American attraction, but also in a dozen other countries. Its standards are higher in some respect than those of its Canadian counterparts, Canada's accredited zoos and aquarium, the CASA. I repeat that when it comes to animal welfare, It's very important to put forward the highest standards, as Bill 241 does. This is not what is at issue, and that is why I support this bill. However, it seems to me to be unfair to favor certain establishments over others. In my opinion, all zoos and aquariums should face the same administrative procedure. Either they all have to go through the same process to obtain a permit, or all those who meet the criteria should be exempted, regardless of their ASEA accreditation. The two-tier system proposed by the bill gives these 7 zoos and aquariums a significant advantage, because even if some of them do not respect their obligations in the future, it might be necessary to modify the law, which is not always a quick procedure. À vrai dire, c'est cet aspect.
In fact, it is this aspect of the bill that's been judged rather unfair by some zoos, which have fewer means, but are trying to improve the fate of their animals. The Zoo Sauvage of Saint-Félicien is one of them. I'd like to thank Senator Klein's office for having taken the time to meet with Lorraine Gagnon, the director of this zoo. She was very concerned that this bill would compromise the future of her zoo and had first approached her MP, Alexis Brunel-Duceppe, who also didn't understand the differential treatment in S-241 either. So dialogue is now underway. The Saint-Félicien Zoo is an important tourist attraction in the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean region, which attracted over 200,000 visitors per year before the pandemic. It's a nonprofit organization that treats its animals in an exemplary manner. All the animals are from the boreal zone and have plenty of space. In fact, the Saint-Félicien Zoo, rather at that zoo, it's the visitors who are in a cage, in a train, and the animals who are free in a 324-hectare park. The animals that are kept in enclosures benefit from spaces that go far beyond requirements. The Saint-Félicien Zoo is involved in scientific research activities and collaborates with a renowned foreign endangered species program. Bill S-241 targets 10 of the 75 species present at the Saint-Félicien Zoo, which is why the executive director is concerned. She reminded us that her zoo is a nonprofit organization and that getting licenses would take time and resources. So she'd like to have the same treatment as the 7 zoos and aquariums, which are exempt from administrative procedures. She does not understand why organizations that meet the standards set out in Bill S-241 are disadvantaged only because they are not members of the AZA. The Saint-Félicien Zoo is only one example, of course, and I don't claim to know the conditions in the other 100 or so zoos and aquariums in Canada. But it seems to me that the licensing process should be reviewed to ensure that all organizations which meet the standards are treated fairly, without undue administrative advantage. According to University of Ottawa law professor Benoit Pelletier, this differential treatment on the basis of membership in a foreign private organization could be challenged under the principles of natural justice under our administrative law. Implementation of the legislation could also be complex. The federal government shares jurisdiction over captive wildlife with the provinces. How will the provinces react if the federal government refuses or delays granting an animal organization designation to an attraction that contributes to regional development? Will the Department of the Environment have the means to inspect zoos on a regular basis, or will it rely solely on whistleblowers, visitors, or animal rights organizations? Zoos, which must comply with the new rules, will have some time to make the transition. They'll be able to keep animals that have been banned until they die. However, the trend towards higher standards is unstoppable. Public awareness of animal welfare is growing, and Indigenous people have long been aware of this well before anyone else. Professor Valérie Giroux of the University of Montreal, a specialist in animal ethics, spoke to Radio-Canada about this. Listen to what she had to say. Parents who bring their children to the zoo are often motivated by excellent reasons. They want their kids to develop an interest in nature and a respect for animals. The problem is that the animals in zoos are alienated, so they're a poor representation of their cousins in the wild. Visiting the zoo is not like visiting a piece of nature. It's more like visiting a prison or a psychiatric hospital. What we teach children by taking them to the zoo is not to develop compassion for animals or to respect biodiversity, but rather they learn that wild animals are meant to be kept captive and to entertain us. They're taught that it's okay to capture animals, to deprive them of their freedom, and to interfere with their social bonds, all of that for our own pleasure. This is a view of animal welfare that contrasts with the view of our childhoods and the view that many of us have passed on to our children. So I thank Senator Klein for this ambitious effort. Further study in committee will assess whether amendments are needed to make the bill more equitable and to ensure that its implementation is as effective and smooth as possible. Thank you.